Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Truss messed up another interview this morning. And this was the easiest interview she could ever hope to have. And it was really important because it was necessary to repair a lot of the damage caused by the last, say, 9 days as she heads into a crucial party conference beginning today. But she still made a mess of it. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Truss made a big mistake doing the local radio interviews last week, as did the advisors who told her it would be a good idea. They thought local yokels would give them an easy ride. In reality, local journalists are the toughest because you have nothing to threaten them with. National journalists are more tame because they're scared stiff of having ministers avoid their shows. I heard it said that if you run a current affairs programme and you can't get ministers to attend, you don't have a show. That's why they're so tame. I would respectfully disagree. I say you do your current affairs programme anyway and you do it properly. You will get opposition politicians on, no problem at all. And if the relevant minister refuses to attend, because you're going to ask tough questions, no problem. You put a cardboard cutout and you keep asking them questions. Oh, has the minister got a response here? No? Okay, then. Do that. Let the other politicians, talk smack about them. No problem. You've still got a current affairs programme. And you know what? People will watch it. The public will be properly informed and the government would look like cowards. So I say this notion of not being too hard for fear of losing access, I believe that is the genuine motivation, but it's wrong-headed. But Laura Kuenssberg, she does not go easy on Tory ministers for fear of losing access, but because she's not only a Tory herself, which is fine. I imagine all political correspondents are themselves political. They will be partisan. That's fine. But they at least need to be objective. They need to think about their own bias and try and filter it out. She's no interest in attempting to be impartial. None at all. If a Tory Prime Minister messes up in an interview with her, they've really messed up. And Truss absolutely messed it up. Just to be clear, before this morning, 3 crucial events that the Tories had to navigate. There was this interview, Kwasi Kwarteng speaking at the conference tomorrow, and that should be interesting, and then Liz Truss's keynote speech on Wednesday. But the first of them was this interview. That was the first obstacle to get through. This was Liz Truss's chance to bring back some public confidence, to not make the mistakes Boris Johnson made. She was right there when he was making these mistakes. Something would go wrong, and instead of a show of humility, he would just try and double down and make it worse. This was her chance to bring a bit of humility in. To say, we've messed it up, we're going to defer the plans. She could still say she believes in the plan. She could say, and she did try and say, with the way we communicated them was lessons need to be learned. But what she could have said is, we're just going to actually stop. We're cancelling it. And we'll bring it in later on after we've made sure that we've properly informed people about exactly how it works. Right? She could have done that. She didn't. And this interview, she could say exactly what she wanted to say. And Kuenssberg let her. Like at one point, Laura Kuenssberg asked about the fact the Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, was at a champagne reception with hedge fund managers who were about to make a fortune on the pound crashing right after his budget statement. Truss responded by waffling on about how she gets up in the morning. Oh dear, well done. And he thinks about Ukraine, poor people of Ukraine. All right, great. What's this got to do with illegal insider trading accusations? And the thing is, Kuenssberg just let her. Like a proper journalist would interrupt her and say, hang on a minute, no. I'm asking about this. I'm not asking about what you do when you get up in the morning. I'm not asking about war in Europe. I'm asking about insider trading here. That's illegal. Has your Chancellor broken the law? Should there be an investigation into whether or not he's broken the law? That's what a journalist would ask. Kuenssberg didn't. She just let Truss waffle on about any old shit. That was the gift the Prime Minister was given. On the morning that her crucial conference started, she was given the absolute gift of an interview where she could get across whatever message she wanted. Doesn't matter about the question. Have a stock number of messages and get them across. Kuenssberg will just let you. She won't derail it, by focusing on what she wants to inform the public with. And she still arsed it up. You know, I did note that she left the door open for the Tory rebels to force her to drop the tax band cut, you know, the upper tax band cut. She said it was Kwarteng's idea, not hers, right? The obvious response of a Prime Minister getting ready for a U-turn. Blame someone else. Oh, it wasn't actually my policy, you know. Oh, yeah, I totally believe it. And she did. She still defended the policy. Do you know what she said? She said it makes the tax system less complicated. No, it doesn't. What does it make? How does it make the tax system? Who does it make the tax system less complicated for? Not employees, because even those who earn more than £150,000 a year, it's the only people it affects, they don't have to deal with it. The tax office deals with it. And the tax office don't have to deal with it either. They just put numbers into the computer and the computer spits the result out. And think about what people on those incomes are being asked to do, right? This is it. It's if you earn over £150,000 a year, this is the difference. This is the policy. Right now, you pay 45% on the excess. With her system, you pay 40% on the excess. So here's how complicated it is right now. You ask yourself a question. Did you earn more than £150,000 last year? Is that complicated? No, you must know how much you earned. It's a number. Okay, Priti Patel might get confused, but for most of us, it's a number. If you didn't earn that much, you don't worry about it anyway. If you did earn more than that, simple. You deduct £150,000 from your income and then you multiply what's left by 0.05. That's the extra you pay. That's not complicated for anyone. And it's especially not complicated for accountants. There's way more complicated aspects to your taxation than that. If she genuinely wanted to simplify the tax system, she could say, remove the lower national insurance bands for the self-employed. No plans to do that, are there? Like I pay, for example, I pay less national insurance than an employee on the same income would. That's not just more complicated, that's also less fair. Or she could remove tax breaks for companies that make enough profit. I mean, that's complicated. There's, bits on the old tax returns there for things like that. That'd simplify it. That'd be a whole section of the tax return you don't need to fill in. Tax breaks are by their nature complex because you have to do extra bits to apply for them. But no, it's not about complexity. It's about giving more to the rich and less to the poor. Speaking of which, she was then asked if benefits would rise with inflation. And the reason she was asked that, not just on an aspect of fairness, it's a government promise. The Tories promised to make sure that benefits increase with inflation. But that was before she took over. Would she honour it? She wouldn't say. She was asked a couple of times. She wouldn't say. Not that it matters, because Kwarteng's basically said that it wouldn't. Not that Kuenssberg either brought up the fact that the Chancellor had already said that it wouldn't, or insisted on an answer. Again, easiest line of questioning you could hope for. And I genuinely cannot imagine any swing voter watching that interview and thinking, oh yeah, maybe she's all right. There were so many dodgy lines. Kuenssberg asked how many people voted for her plan, in reference to the fact Truss is diverging massively from the manifesto on which every Tory MP was elected, maybe not the MP for Hartlepool. Truss replied that in 2019 people voted for a successful country. No, they didn't. No, they voted Tory, if you remember. But in seriousness, they voted for the specific promises made during that campaign. She was then asked if she's put the country on a path they didn't ask for. Again, she responded that people voted for a different future. And the thing is, do you know what? I'm actually being kind there. I'm being kind to Liz Truss there. Because let me tell you exactly how it happened. Kuenssberg asked how many people voted for her plan. Truss paused for several seconds, as is customary in her interviews, because she's never prepared. She gets asked questions, think, cogs turning. And then she asks Laura Kuenssberg, what do you mean by that? The point I'm making is, I can pick out some of the questions and answers that came up, right, and be critical about them. And I'll make a sound bad. Sure, you may think, I'm a political opponent. Of course I'm going to make a sound bad. I promise you, if you watch the interview yourself, it was far worse for Truss than I'm painting here. Because that's how bad she is. It's not just that she was being evasive or deceptive or just straight up lying. She comes across very badly. Boris Johnson would be evasive, deceptive and just straight up lie. But he wouldn't come across as badly. So for people who weren't paying too much attention to what he was saying, the bluster could sway them. She hasn't got that skill. And I said this a long time ago, because I've seen her in debates in Parliament. She isn't capable of the bluster. She's stunningly bad at this. And she got basic things wrong as well. She said that a drop in the price of government debt's not the same as like raising interest rates. And it's like, well, of course it is. In order to put her plans into practice, interest rates have to go up. She needs to sell more government bonds. You have to make them more attractive. In fact, it's exactly how government debt works. It's intrinsically tied to interest rates. It was put to her that mortgage payments are going to have to go up. Are people really saving when you're going to be putting mortgage rates up? And she dodged it by saying, well, actually, interest rates are set by the Bank of England. Yeah, in reaction to what the government are doing to the economy. The interest rates go up in order to make bonds more attractive. If the government does one of two things, right, and the government's doing both of these things at the moment, if the government wants to borrow a load extra, you need to sell more bonds. That means you need to make them more attractive. So you have to increase the interest rates to increase demand for them. If you want to increase supply and maintain, you have to raise the demand for them. You know, so that they can make. So the Bank of England also, but the second thing is, and the government's also done this, if you do or say something that reduces confidence in government bonds, just at the rate at which they're being traded in now, the Bank of England also has to raise interest rates so that they can maintain the value of the pound when something's shaken confidence. Like, you know, uncosted fiscal policies, for example. And as I say, the government's doing both of those. They're reducing confidence in government bonds at the same time as they're wanting to increase the number that get sold. She also said she wants to deliver excellent public services to people. But her November budget is going to announce massive cuts to public services. They're calling them efficiency savings right now. But when we see the detail, it'll be service cuts. Services are going. When asked about this, Truss actually refused to say she'd be cutting public services. But it's this simple. She has just lowered tax revenues next year with her plan. If it doesn't get reversed, that's what she's done. So there are three ways to balance the books. And if she doesn't balance the books, the markets will not be impressed. First, she increases other taxes elsewhere. But she's not about that. Second, she borrows more. But like I've already said, tricky, because borrowing means selling more government bonds. The arse fell out of the bonds market last week so badly that the Bank of England had to create £65 billion worth of new money to buy a load. That's £65 billion extra in the economy now, which of course means more inflation on the way. Or third, she cuts public expenditure. It's one of those three, and everyone knows which one it's going to be. And it will come with the same results as when Cameron and Osborne did the same thing. It will reduce competitiveness of our businesses because the economy will stagnate because you are removing things that businesses need. Only Cameron inherited a strong economy and well-resourced public services. Truss has inherited an economy entering recession and public services unable to cope. She can't do what Cameron did. She's adopting an economic policy that can never work. It's been shown to not, it's been tried and failed every single time with very buoyant economies. But it will be especially exposed when the economy is on its arse. And none of what she said is going to change people's minds. She now has two more crucial events coming up, as I say. Tomorrow, the Chancellor is speaking at 4 p.m. at the conference. Truss then gives her keynote speech, pretty sure that's Wednesday. Afterwards, we will then wait for the latest polling. I suppose Friday's polls will be the most instructive. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the ridiculous 30-point leads for Labour won't be intact. Not because they weren't accurate, but because it was a perfect storm of events leading to it, which I've already discussed before. But I am going to suggest that this Tory party conference is not going to massively swing things back in the Tories' favour. I still think Labour are going to be left with a lead greater than when the budget was delivered. And that'll put massive pressure on Truss as we get ready for Parliament to return after another week. And then we can see just how big the Tory rebellion is. Remember, her budget hasn't actually been voted on yet. Don't treat it as if, oh, this budget is done, it's dusted, and it's only Liz Truss that can change her mind. MPs need to vote on it. It doesn't even come into effect yet, by the way. This is for the future. MPs have to vote on it. They might not. They might not. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.